about why I think the minimum wage shouldn't be raised. If you have any questions, you can hold them until the end when we're done recording. I actually work at a minimum wage job, so I have the perspective of working and not making a lot of money for very few hours and having trouble being able to afford living at that wage. First, I'll talk about what happens when the minimum wage is increased, and then I'll talk about what should happen. I actually think that the minimum wage is just a temporary solution to a much bigger problem. Can I see a show of hands of who works in a minimum wage job? So, nobody. And who works at an above minimum wage job? And of these people, who went to college? So almost everyone who works at an above the minimum wage job went to college.
Hit page up. Or
Okay. I think that minimum wage jobs are paid to employees, or minimum wage salaries are paid to employees who work minimum wage jobs, and that's because competition drives wages up. You get better jobs when you go to college because employers pay more money for people who have more experience and more education. They have more money to afford better employees. A majority of the public does work at minimum wage jobs, so I think that they're more interested in just getting more money versus actually solving a much bigger issue. There's a cycle that happens when the minimum wage is raised. First it increases, and then cost push inflation causes prices to rise. Employers' biggest expense is often salary paid to their employees. So to cover that expense, they need to cover the prices of the products that they're selling. Sometimes jobs are cut. If they're paying more money to their current workers, then they'll decrease the number of workers that they have to make that even. Sometimes they're replaced by machines. I don't know if you've ever called like a call center or a help desk. You usually get a computer, and sometimes they don't understand you, or they don't even have an option to talk to an actual person, and you don't really get any help that way. And all of this causes the cost of living to rise, which brings you back to where you started, and your minimum wage increase hasn't really helped you at all. So this is why it's a temporary solution, because it just keeps going in a circle. What should happen instead is a more permanent solution, support from private or public programs, both of them. Companies should take more responsibility to improve the quality of life for their employees. A lot of companies already do this. Google has daycares at its center to help parents who need to find like a good place to take care of their children. Starbucks provides college tuition, and the reason that they do this is because households and businesses both affect each other. Households own and provide income for businesses, because the owners of businesses are people who are running households, and businesses provide income to households by hiring employees. So they should care about each other because they affect each other. What you can do about this, you can vote, you can contact your representatives, you can sign a petition. Right now there's not a lot of petitions to keep the minimum wage down, mostly to raise the minimum wage. So the best thing to do would be contacting your representatives to start one of those petitions. I think that Sanderson, he interviewed with the Chicago Tribune. He is a University of Chicago Department of Economics professor, explains the idea the best. He says that the minimum wage is just a clumsy anti-poverty program. He'd rather go after skills and improve skills. He wants people to have more command in the workplace, and he wants them to have have much more than $7.25 an hour. He just doesn't want McDonald's to be the place where they can make that. Are there any questions?
More questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you going to present this in class or another audience?
No.
This is it right
You
here?
guys are my audience.
Okay. I noticed that you were using some cards to sort of be notes to help with reference to things you want to go on to. It would be okay to have those in your charts. So you could go to a chart that has some of those cues that you have on those cards to help you go along. So it's just sort of it's part of bringing your audience along as well, and it also helps you as you give a briefing. So you don't have to have a note card to your charts up here would be the cue
Yeah, we're
for you.
actually supposed to have a speaker's outline, which is what the note cards are for. It's my outline. It's part of the requirement.
And those could be part of your charts too.
So, are there other people who object to this or are against this option and would prefer to have a minimum wage job be increased?
I feel like the majority of people actually want an increase, but I also think that they're more concerned about just making more money.
Okay. What do you think that does to everybody else's job who doesn't get that money?
What do you mean?
That increase. So if
Like supervisors?
right.
Well, if the minimum wage is increased for like a sales associate, it doesn't affect the manager. So if the manager is making $10.50 an hour, the sales associate's minimum wage gets increased to $10, and the manager is barely making above minimum wage, and they're doing a lot more work.
So what do you think that does to that person's personality? What do you
Well, I
or
think
that
they're
overall?
very unhappy with their job.
Exactly. So it's a trickle up effect, more or less.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that's a fair option?
No. I think it goes to that cycle that I was talking about. It doesn't really help anything because then, maybe then the manager will want more money and it means giving more money to them, and then the businesses have to be able to afford that, so they increase their prices. They don't hire as many sales associates, so they cut their hours, and then the associates have to work harder, and then